The wolf does not growl, it simply stares. Across the snow, still, shoulders low, tail dropped to the ground, a younger male holds that gaze for exactly 3 seconds. Then he looks away. His body folds. He rolls onto his back in the cold. It is over in 6 seconds. No blood, no fight, no chase. And somewhere in that 6 seconds, a hierarchy was either confirmed or decided. But what actually happened there? How does a wolf earn the right to hold a stare that makes another animal fold? What is the wolf on the ground calculating? Submission or survival? Is this the moment a pack chooses its leader? Or is something older, stranger, and far more unsettling happening inside that hierarchy? Something the scientists who studied it for 50 years got completely wrong. And if they got it wrong, what does that tell us about every team, every family, every group of people who ever looked for a leader and thought they found one? Watch this through to the end. The answer will change the question. For most of the 20th century, the answer seemed obvious. Wolf packs have alphas. The alpha is the strongest animal, the one that fought, dominated, and earned the top position through repeated victory. Below the alpha sits the beta, then a ranked hierarchy descending to the omega, the lowest, the most subordinate, the one who eats last and sleeps alone. This was not folk wisdom, it was science. Published science, taught in universities, repeated in documentaries, absorbed into everyday language until it reshaped how human beings talk about power, leadership, and ambition. The wolf alpha entered the culture like a clean blade. Every corporate training that talks about alpha personalities, every self-help book that instructs you to be the alpha in the room, every wildlife program that showed wolves in combat and called it a dominance display. All of it, the entire architecture of the idea, traces back to one man, one series of studies, and one catastrophic design flaw that took 5 decades to fully understand. The colony of studies ran for years. The data was careful, but the wolves were wrong. The fatal mistake in wolf research. In 1970, a young wildlife biologist named David Mech published The Wolf, the first comprehensive scientific account of wolf social behavior. Mech was rigorous. His observations were meticulous. His conclusions were, at the time, entirely reasonable. He had watched wolves, closely, constantly. But the wolves he watched were captive, gathered from different packs, from different territories, and placed together in an enclosure. Unrelated animals forced into close proximity with no way out and no established bonds between them. What Mech recorded was real, but it was not natural. When unrelated wolves are confined together, they do fight. Hierarchies do form through combat. An animal does dominate, does hold rank, does suppress subordinates through repeated assertion of force. In a captive enclosure, the alpha wolf is exactly what Mech described, a position won and held through dominance. The flaw was not in the observation. It was in what Mech assumed the observation meant. Wild wolves changed everything. Mech's book spread. The alpha framework spread with it. By the 1980s, it was not merely a scientific concept, it was cultural infrastructure. Wolves in captivity confirmed the model so consistently that few researchers thought to look more carefully at wolves in the wild. Mech thought to look. He returned to wild wolf packs in Minnesota, in Yellowstone, in the high Arctic, and spent not months but decades watching. What he saw did not fit his own theory. Wild wolves did not fight for the alpha position. They did not maintain rigid, combat-enforced hierarchies. The The alpha pair did not suppress the rest of the pack through dominance displays. They just led, quietly, calmly, without visible conflict. The dominant animals in a wild pack were not the most aggressive. They were the oldest. They were the ones who had been there the longest. And in the vast majority of cases, they had been there the longest because they were born there. Imagine being the scientist who built the framework. Not a small contribution, the framework. The one that hundreds of researchers built careers on. The one that gave language to a generation's understanding of power and leadership. The one that your name is permanently attached to, in every textbook, in every documentary, in every boardroom where someone is being instructed to dominate the room. Now imagine realizing it is wrong. Not slightly wrong. Not wrong in a correctable way. Wrong at the foundation. Mech did not go quiet. He went back to work. He returned to the data. He looked not at what the wolves were doing, but at who the wolves were. He began mapping the genetic relationships within wild packs, not as an afterthought, but as the central question. If the alpha hypothesis was correct, then the dominant animal in any wild pack should be the strongest, most battle-tested individual, regardless of family connection. The data said something else entirely. In 1999, 29 years after publishing the book that made him famous, David Mech published a paper in the Canadian Journal of Zoology arguing that the term alpha wolf should be abandoned for wild populations entirely. He spent subsequent years petitioning his publisher to pull the wolf from circulation. The book, still selling, still cited, still influencing, was, in his own words, misleading. A scientist asking the world to forget his own most famous work. That is not a career move. That is a reckoning. The truth Mech had spent 3 decades finding was this. Wild wolf packs are not ranked strangers. They are families. The alpha pair are the breeding parents. The subordinate wolves below them are, almost without exception, their own offspring, pups from previous seasons who have not yet dispersed to form packs of their own. The hierarchy that looks like dominance is, in functional terms, parental authority. The wolves on the ground with their bellies up are not defeated competitors. They are adolescents deferring to their parents. The word for this in human language is not submission. It is growing up. Watch a wild wolf pack move across a hillside, and the hierarchy is almost invisible. The breeding male does not march at the front, chest forward, tail raised. He ranges ahead and circles back. He checks on the group. He scouts terrain and returns with information the younger wolves do not yet have. The breeding female does not command through aggression. She initiates and the pack follows because she has been right before. This is not dominance through force. It is authority through experience. A 2016 study by researchers at the University of Minnesota, tracking 54 wild wolves across 6 packs over multiple years, found that social rank in wild packs was predicted by age and family position in over 90% of observed cases. Combat between packmates was rare enough to be statistically negligible. But the 6-second stare down from the opening, that was real. That submission was real. When does wolf-on-wolf dominance conflict actually occur? 3 conditions produce it. When an outside wolf attempts to join an established pack, when a pack's breeding pair dies and no clear successor exists, and when, precisely as in Mech's original studies, unrelated wolves are forced into close quarters with nowhere to retreat. The fighting wolves are not choosing an alpha. They are strangers, trapped together, negotiating a hierarchy that would never have needed to be negotiated if they had simply been born into the same family. The dominance we filmed, the hierarchy we published, the alpha we made famous. It was never the natural state of the wolf. It was what wolves do when something goes wrong. What wolves reveal about human leadership. There is something worth sitting with here. For 50 years, the most influential model of wolf society came from watching animals in circumstances no wild wolf would ever choose. From that observation, we built a language, alpha, beta, omega, dominance hierarchy, that we then applied to ourselves. To our workplaces, our relationships, our sense of who we are supposed to be in a room full of people. What does it mean that the model was built on captivity? This channel goes looking for questions like that one, the ones that complicate everything underneath a word we thought we understood. If that is the kind of question you want to keep finding, the subscribe button is here. We will keep looking. The deeper question is not whether the alpha concept was wrong about wolves. It is what we were looking for when we so eagerly believed it. Mech's 1999 paper used a phrase that has stayed in the literature ever since. He wrote that the social structure of a wild wolf pack is better described not as a dominance hierarchy, but as a family group with natural leadership. A family group with natural leadership. The wolves are not choosing a leader. The leader is not fighting for the position. The leader is simply the one who has been there longest, who has made the most decisions, who has been right enough times that the others have learned to follow without being told. In the Arctic packs Mech studied, some for over 20 consecutive years, this pattern held without exception. The breeding pair led. Their offspring deferred, and when the offspring grew old enough, they left, not driven out by violence, but drawn away by the possibility of their own families, their own territories, their own packs. The wolf on its back in the opening snow was not being defeated. It was, in the most literal biological sense possible, recognizing its parents. Return to the opening hillside. The younger wolf rises from the snow. The older animal has already moved on, not triumphant, not lingering, just moving, scanning the tree line, leading by continuation. The younger wolf falls into step behind him. No drama, no acknowledgement. 6 seconds of eye contact. Then a family walking. We spent 50 years watching wolves fight for something that wild wolves almost never fight for. We built a mythology of dominance from animals in enclosures, and then we looked in the mirror and saw ourselves. The wolf that held the stare did not earn that authority today. It earned it the day it was born into this pack, survived its first winter, and outlasted enough seasons to become the one who remembers where the prey moves when the temperature drops. That is not dominance. That is just time and the knowledge it leaves behind. The real question, the one the wolves cannot answer for us, is what we were really searching for when we went looking for an alpha in the first place. After everything in this video, here is the thing I still cannot resolve. If the alpha wolf was always just the parent, not the fighter, does that mean leadership and parenthood are the same thing? Or does it mean we confuse them? Comment below. I genuinely want to know where you land on that one.